Serrapeptase is an enzyme, and it's just another of these wonderful things that I found about 4 or 5 years ago. And this is an enzyme that 30 years ago was found by scientists, and they did about 23 studies over the last 30 years. And this enzyme is just wonderful because what it does, it gets rid of all inflammation and dead tissue out of the body. And you might not know it, but most symptoms, whether it's lung disease, blocked arteries, whether it's inflammatory bowel disease, the actual problem is the inflamed dead tissue that's clogging up the body and, if you like, just making a mess inside us. And this Serrapeptase literally clears it out. And I thought, well, wait a minute. You know, does the world not know about this? Because I found it was on prescription in Germany by a doctor, so it's not, if you like, just a woo-woo thing, and it's got 23 studies.
A woo-woo
and so I started
thing.
publicizing it. I published newsletters. I wrote the book that Joyce mentioned before that you can get from the Power Hour. And, of course, now it's starting to become exciting because people are using this. And every day some new condition comes up. And not long ago, a guy calls up and says, "Do you realize this Serrapeptase is wonderful stuff?" Yes, we do. He said, "No, do you realize? Because I've got cerebral palsy." And he told this story on cerebral palsy. Well, he actually told it to David in our office, who is the main guy for customer services. And David told it to me. And in fact, he called me. Sorry, that's right. He called the Power Hour, David, to give the message to me. And I announced the first time I heard about it on the Power Hour that this guy was using Serrapeptase to give him a life after cerebral palsy. And but the story is not finished because...
Well, first of all, let me just add that when you tell an RN that somebody's had an amazing recovery or a reversal of some of the symptoms in CP, I just couldn't believe that. I thought, somebody is imagining they're doing better, somebody's got a psychological reaction to it. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, Robert, you don't hear that kind of thing in mainstream medicine.
I've never heard it at all, actually, with any treatment for cerebral palsy. And of course, I hear lots of stuff because I'm around the world and I'm talking to everybody in the business of natural health. And I had never heard anybody give any testimony for cerebral palsy before.
And it was amazing. And this young man that called us said that he had been using it since January. And I think I'll just let him tell his story because his story, of course, is told best by him. But I want to say thank you very much to Mike Taz, who believed in something, made a decision to do something to better himself. And he's joining us now in the Power Hour. Mike, thank you for joining us from Manchester also.
Thank you. It's lovely to be with you again.
And it's lovely to have you on with Robert Redfern, too.
It's great to get a chance to talk to him.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Robert.
We got two guys that talk alike here on the Power Hour, and Dave who wants to try and imitate them. But,
he's much better spoken than me.
Well, I really appreciate your joining us today, Mike. Tell us your story. You have been in a wheelchair for how many years?
Well, I was born with cerebral palsy, but I got my first wheelchair when I was about 6, I think.
Okay, and pretty much since that time you've been in a wheelchair, correct?
Yeah, physiotherapists and doctors and surgeons and people have tried to get me walking at various times, but it hasn't been something that could be sustained, basically.
Okay, now prior to taking Serrapeptase, what were your major, most difficult symptoms that you experienced with CP, with cerebral palsy?
Well, basically, cerebral palsy is a congenital brain problem which mostly affects movement. So I had a lot of spasticity, very tight muscles. So all my muscles worked all the time instead of one muscle in a given joint working while the other one relaxed. All my muscles worked all the time. And they still do. It doesn't hurt anymore. Okay,
now you were taking you were taking how many prescription medications prior to Serrapeptase?
Well, there were 14. According to my doctor. I can only remember 13 of them. So the 14th can't have been that good because I forgot it. But there were certainly 13 of them. And if we go through the list, as I did the last time I spoke to you, many of them are actually repeats of each other. In other words, several things designed to do the same thing. And what seems to have happened, and I've only found this out since stopping them, is that instead of a little bit of a good effect from several different things and building up into a very good effect, I seem to have had a small bad effect from a lot of different things, and basically it's built up to a point where the medication itself was causing me more problems than the cerebral palsy dose.
Which is often one of the problems of taking medication. Can you give us the categories of what you were taking?
Basically, most of them were for my stomach, because the symptom that bugged me the most was basically a stomach full of acid caused by something that I should have had an operation for when I was a kid and I never got. But anyway, my stomach was so bad that they were thinking of operating to correct it.
Now in January,
until February.
January, February, somebody approached you with something called Serrapeptase, and you began taking this. You didn't know what it was for, or you did? Tell us what the person said that gave it to you.
Yeah, my friend actually has arthritis, and she's not a medical person, but she watched me trying to move around and things and said, this guy has tight muscles, stiff joints, lots and lots and lots of pain. Serrapeptase at the time was working well for her, so perhaps it could help to relieve my pain. Now, based on that, I was prepared to give it a go, simply as a pain reliever. I wasn't expecting anything else, and I went through the process of checking with my family doctor that it wouldn't interfere with anything else that I was on, because I didn't think I would ever get off the other medication. We all know what happened since, of course.
And tell us what happened, because there's a lot of people that have not heard your story before that are listening to us right now. What happened when you started taking Serrapeptase?
Of course. Basically, I started taking Serrapeptase on the 3rd of January of this year. It's a date that will be burned into my brain forever, I think. And I thought, try it for a couple of weeks. It's a food supplement. It won't do me any damage, but, I didn't hold out much hope for it. By the 5th of January, which is just 2 days later, of course, I had what I described as the mother of all coughs. And basically I thought I was going to cough my insides out, to put it politely. But over the next 48 hours, I basically coughed from my lungs thick, yellow, smelly, foul-tasting gunge that the medics had told me probably wasn't there. I'd said to them before that it felt like my lungs were full of water. They clearly weren't, because otherwise I'd have drowned, but that's what it felt like. Anyway, up comes this horrible stuff. I felt great, but thought, as with asthma medications, your lungs clear, but the rubbish builds up again. Wrong.
It didn't, huh?
It hasn't built up again.
Now, what happened to your spasticity? Because I know spasticity or muscular problems, the tightness is a real problem.
That's right. If you want to figure out what it feels like, think of having cramp in every muscle you know about, and several that you don't, 24 hours a day for life.
Wow. It really is that uncomfortable.
Yes,
it's that painful.
Sometimes it's more painful than others, but it's always there.
How do you sleep? How did you sleep at the time?
I didn't much. Basically, I would stay awake until I was literally too tired to be conscious safely.
And what happened?
Then eventually I'd fall asleep because I didn't have a choice.
Wow. And then what happened when you began taking the Serrapeptase with your muscular contraction?
Well, that took a little longer to settle. But, we're only talking a week or so, so it wasn't exactly a long time. And I still do have the spasms, and I still do have some discomfort. But I think the best way of describing how much more flexible my joints are and how much more reliable my muscles are, because I don't have to fight them anymore, is simple. Basically, on the 25th of May, I've been practicing standing with crutches because I thought I might as well. In theory, I should be able to stand. In practice, I couldn't because I was in so much pain. 25th of May, I was stood, not intending to walk anywhere because I just didn't have the confidence, basically. I haven't walked properly for nearly 20 years, and I haven't walked at all for nearly 5.
Amazing.
And anyway, my phone rang. So I took a few steps, I think about 20.
He took steps, listeners. He took steps. He stood up. An amazing story. A miraculous story, but one that can be repeated, I believe. Now, we're going to get back to the subject because I know you want to hear what Mike Taz has to say. He suffers from and has suffered from cerebral palsy since birth, but he began in January to take something called Serrapeptase or Serrazyme, which we have at the Power Hour. Now, we're talking about the testimony of Mike Taz, who has CP, who has been in a wheelchair. He said he has not walked at all for the past 5 years. You said, Mike, that the phone rang. You went to get the phone and you took some steps, correct?
That's right. I'd been standing, and that's all I thought I was going to do. And something must have clicked in my head that I needed to answer the phone rather than ignore it. So I did, which meant taking about 20 steps.
Wow.
And I didn't even figure out I'd done it until I realized I was talking on the phone.
That is incredible. And Robert, let me bring you back on here. Robert Redfern, who distributes Serrapeptase and has been involved in helping us to understand the miracles with Serrapeptase. You must have been shocked to hear this story, were you not?
Well, I'm not only shocked, actually, but it really, if you like, inspires me to just to have a broader look at everything that this can do. And I mean, Mike's story itself means that people I would normally have shied away from saying I could help, obviously now I've got to take a chance and say I may be able to help you.
And so Serrapeptase is effective in a number of problems and a number of disorders, a number of symptoms, but it is basically for inflammation. Anytime there's inflammation, it doesn't make any difference what the problem is.
Inflammation and inflamed dead tissue. That's the
right.
big thing, because people have cysts and all sorts of things which they think is something that will never go away or has to be cut out, but they're just inflamed dead tissue, and getting rid of cysts is one of the simple things it can do.
And we have the book at the Power Hour. It's $19.95. The book on Serrapeptase is available at the Power Hour. You are going to be going to meet with Mike, aren't you? Do you want to tell us about that, Robert?
Well, the important thing is that he's had such a great result now that it's inspired me to take HealthPoint round and just to see where we can go with HealthPoint. And obviously we're going to report back to the Power Hour in a month or so once we've been doing this. But I think that the HealthPoint might just take Mike to one extra level higher than where he is now, actually.
I'll tell you, we're going to be excited to hear about that. Mike, I'm sure you are not wanting to put a lot of expectations on this, but it's got to be exciting that Robert's going to come and treat you personally.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thrilled. I don't know exactly what the result will be, but given what I originally thought about Serrapeptase before I started using it, I'm willing to give anything that has been properly thought at and is properly used a go.
And we're talking about some really good stuff today. Yeah, a lot of people want to talk about the end of the world is on Friday and get prepared, but you know what? The end of the world may not come, but you know what? We're doing what it takes to feel good now. That means to feel good and to think better. And we have joining us from the UK, Robert Redfern, who has been an amazing stabilizing force with the Power Hour to help us learn what works. And, of course, we haven't even talked about curcumin, which is the antidote for the Power Hour dog. We have seen amazing things happen as a result of curcumin. And we're talking about Serrapeptase right now. Nope, the Power Hour dog has not had Serrapeptase. But we could. We just didn't see the need for that. But we're talking to Mike Taz, who has had CP since he was born, and he is now learning that he could take 20 steps as a result of having done only 2 things. He stopped using all of his prescription medication, and he began using Serrapeptase. Robert Redfern is going to visit him very shortly and introduce him to the HealthPoint machine, which I think is pretty exciting. Robert, anything that you'd like to add as far as what might work, what might help in anybody who is kind of at a situation where they're just deciding they want to do something, they're going to make a commitment to get better?
You've already mentioned curcumin as well, because Mike, how long have you been on curcumin now as well?
Not as long, a couple of months. No, I realise that, but a couple of months now.
Can you remember when you were started on curcumin?
I would have to look it up, I'm afraid, but I can let
Right.
everybody know that if it would help.
It is another important part of, if you like, the total program for anybody that has decided they really, really want to change their life. I take it, and I'm sure you take it, Joyce, and I wouldn't not take it because if it could do so many great things. Just to give you an example, there are 2 studies showing that curcumin reverses Alzheimer's disease. Now, this is a disease that the drug companies are failing to reverse. They say they can hold it, but they can't reverse it. Where here's a substance which is very safe, very effective, and has got 2 studies showing that it reverses it. So I would say to anybody, serrapeptase obviously is the very first thing that you get going with, and follow that up with curcumin. HealthPoint is, if you like, your third arm in your life anyway. But the thing you've got to do is become determined. It's all right just saying, this sounds like magic bullets, but you yourself have to be determined to take control of your own life. The medical system is an abject failure as far as I'm concerned. It failed me, it failed my parents, and it fails so many people that I speak to every day. And I'm afraid, there are some good doctors out there. Make no mistake. Who are the good doctors? The good doctors are the ones who actually are brave enough, because these doctors come under attack when they start to, if you like, step out of the orthodox system. But those good doctors, in fact, I've met some good doctors with Joyce actually, and I have to take my hat off to them because these are brave people. But if you can find a good, brave doctor to help you, great. Otherwise, you're on your own. You've just got Joyce Riley on the power house to help you.
And Robert. Well, let me just ask Mike Taz. Mike, you must have been a little bit, when somebody said, here, try this, after all the things you've tried, it must have been hard for you to get even interested in taking anything else, wasn't it?
Well, absolutely. As we said before, I was actually on 14 medications at the time. And they were working less and less and less. As I said, the symptom that bugged me the most was my stomach, but the one that was most dangerous medically was my heart condition.
Oh, heart condition. We haven't talked about that. We're going to stay on topic today with some things that can help you. We have Mike Taz joining us today. He is a young man who has had CP all of his life, started taking serrapeptase, then began curcumin, and lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, he stood up and he walked 20 steps, which is just amazing to me. Mike, are you feeling stronger every day, or are you kind of at a plateau now? I honestly want to know where you stand.
No, I think I am feeling stronger. I guess the results are less dramatic now, which is probably a good thing.
Has it?
Excitement's great, but you don't want it all the time.
Has it helped you to have more motivation to improve your diet or things like that?
For one thing, it's actually given me a choice about what I can eat. My stomach condition was so bad and my medication so complex that there were certain things I literally could not eat, as in I could not digest them. Basically, there were some foods that wouldn't go through me literally in days. There were others that would simply make me feel incredibly ill incredibly quickly. So I ate very little. And what I did eat was nutritionally terrible. But it was a case of eating what my body would take rather than what
calories.
was good for it.
Well, let me ask Robert, what would you say would be a good thing for him to consider doing with his diet, or for any of us, for that matter, to do with our diet?
Well, he's read it in the book now, and I've told him, but we all need to realize that there are some foods that degenerate the body and some foods that regenerate the body. The degenerative foods are the starchy carbohydrates and processed foods: bread, pastry, biscuits, cookies, breakfast cereals, white rice, pasta, anything like that. The foods that regenerate the body are all the gorgeous vegetables and the dark-skinned fruits. The dark-skinned fruits are better than the light, like melon and bananas. Those are not as good as the cherries, the berries, blackberries, blueberries. They're so full of anthocyanins and phytochemicals that these are the things that will really protect us and help to regenerate the body. And of course, good meat. If you're going to eat meat, I know some people say don't eat meat, but I don't think naturally reared meat is as bad as the rap it's got. It's partly because people have always eaten it with starchy carbohydrates, and that's not a good way. If you eat meat and potatoes, then you're going to have two foods that fight each other and cause digestive tract problems. So if you're going to eat meat, make sure it's naturally reared, not corn-fed, grass-fed, and of course good fish. These are real foods, and these will make such a difference to everybody's life. I mean, you know the difference it's made to my life because, 20 years ago, I was on the same track, same foods that my parents ate, and they died in a couple of years from now. And you know, because you've seen me, what you see is what you get. I'm 60 years of age, and I truly, truly feel 30 years of age.
Yeah, your wife, amazing listeners. I mean, they walk the walk. And any of you who have the Health Point machine, that beautiful lady on the front page of the front of the Health Point machine, that is his wife. And I'm not going to tell how old she is, but she is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, that photograph was taken 15 years ago, and she doesn't really look that much different now.
No, she does not. I thought that was a recent picture, because I've seen her. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And on page 107 of the book, Pain Relief, Inflammation Relief, and Clear Arteries, the book about serrapeptase, is the diet for digestive problems, listeners. There's all kinds of diets in here. He has tremendous information. We're going to get to that, but I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to our wonderful guest, Mike Taz, right now. I want to thank him for joining us today and spending all this time with us to help us be inspired and perhaps, maybe we can walk around and we can do the things that perhaps he cannot do. We have no excuse. We need to get involved in our own health. And Mike, my hat is off to you. I salute you. I thank you. We'll be praying for you. I know the Power Hour listeners will be praying for you. And we do want to report very soon about what you think about meeting Robert, okay?
Thank you very much.
Getting to meet him in person. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Mike. Robert, this has got to be so exciting, but there's other exciting things, and we need to move on because there's other things that people can do with serrapeptase as well as the other items that the Power Hour is recommending or you've recommended to the Power Hour. Now, let's just start where you would want to begin right now. If people are making that decision to get better, serrapeptase, curcumin, but what do we need to do next?
Let me just add my tribute to Mike, actually. I mean, this is a person that really wasn't that bothered whether he lived the next day. And look at this, but he made that step. No matter how bad he felt, he made the step. And he took the step, and look where it got him. So all I can say to your listeners is make the step. Mm-hmm. Just go forward. Doesn't matter how many things you've tried in the past and they've failed. Make the step. Make the step. Because, I'm in awe of Mike Taz. I truly, truly am because, how bad he must have felt, actually. And look at him now, actually. And listen to him now. Listen to the spirit in his voice, actually.
Oh,
and that's why I'm going to going around there, because if I can just add just a little bit more to his adventure, then, I'm privileged.